Well, I had a childhood like many kids in Ireland and the United Kingdom, which is spend a lot of time in the fields, a lot of time in the laneways, very, very little time spent inside the house, a lot of time reading, a lot of time watching TV, but in a different way to now, because there was only maybe one TV in a whole town of 2,000 people, so you could only watch it in spurts. So, but it was a childhood of the imagination, really. Yeah, it was called Love Me Tender with Elvis Presley, and I wept for days after it because the bad guys shot Elvis and he was playing Love Me Tender on the guitar, and I really thought that was the saddest moment that I'd ever experienced, when Elvis Presley, who should never die, died right there on the prairie with his guitar beside him. I was about 7. It's drawn a lot from those memories, The Butcher Boy, I suppose, but I invented a lot as well. I mean, I made up my own movies in The Butcher Boy, and I also used, you see, at that time, in the 40s and 50s, that was the golden age of movies, and my parents would have seen an awful lot of movies and spoken an awful lot about movies. Possibly the most powerful genre for a small country town would have been the Western, like Rio Bravo. Anything by Howard Hawks or John Ford, because in a little town, I'm sure it's the same in Zlín, you have people, you know, you recognize people's characteristics. It's all about personalities, and it's also about politics. You know, you have in Howard Hawks' movies, you know, the West being born, you know, people setting up a new state, and The Man from Liberty Valance by John Ford, and very much that was the childhood that I experienced. As you got older, the Westerns kind of seemed to be a way you could express what was going on around you. And it's a mass entertainment thing. It wasn't an intellectual thing, which was kind of lovely, really. That's the great power of the film, I think. It's democratic more than other art forms. Well, I've never done anything like this before, being on a jury for movies or anything. And I suppose the reason I never took it before was I didn't feel qualified. I didn't have enough kind of arrogance to do it in a way. I didn't feel that I was anyone to judge anyone's work. But possibly as you get older, you feel you have a little bit of experience behind you, and you might have something to say about debut movies, people who are starting out in the industry or in the world of art, or that you might actually be okay to say, I prefer this movie to another, although ultimately competition is not something I like. I don't think you say, here we have the apple, here we have the orange. How many stars do you give the apple? How many stars do you give the orange? I'm not comfortable with that, but at the same time, I'd like to try it once or twice and see if it works, and I'm very much enjoying it. Well, I think you can approach this from a number of levels, and I think possibly one advantage that I have is that I'm not directly involved in the film industry, so I don't say, oh, the direction was weak, or I don't say, you know, the sound was dreadful but the direction was good. First and foremost, I come to it with an objective kind of mind, is that who is it reaching? Is it reaching a small number of people? Could it have reached more people? I come to it as a punter, first of all. After that, I look at the writing, because I think without good writing, no movie will succeed. At any time that you see something wrong with a movie, you'll say the motivation is not clear, the plot points, or there's a hole there, and that's always down to the writing. And if it's not in the script, you can't fix it. You can never fix it. It's always too late, and you waste a lot of money and a lot of time, and you keep insisting it's good when it's not, because it wasn't on the page. So I look at the writing and see if that's good, but I don't hold fast to that, you know, because there were other people there. But that, first of all, it would be go in there as if I'd never written a word in my life, and just say, is this going to hit me or is it not going to hit me? Well, I do, but I mean, I think that it's a worrying time for, you know, the techno revolution has been so all-pervasive, and the very fact that the independent sector in America has pretty much collapsed. You know, you can get $60 million to make what they call a marquee movie or a tent-pole movie like The Avengers, but you can't get $5 million to make a movie, you know, like, say, The Butcher Boy, but you couldn't get the money to do that now. So I'm not qualified enough to know whether it will ever come back or will it come back in the same form. I suspect it won't, because the box set, you know, the Breaking Bad, the Killing, the Homeland, that's where all the good direction is now, and that's where all the good writing is. I've just watched Breaking Bad, the 4th series is coming up now. The writing in that is astounding. I mean, really astounding. I mean, I grew up in the golden age of the 70s, which was great writing, but this is definitely as good. So there's a whole new generation coming through there, and I suspect it's going to stay there for quite some time. I think it's very interesting, but I don't think they're all successful. I mean, I think Iron Man is successful. I think Sin City is probably the best of them all, with Mickey Rourke, but a lot of them bore me, and I think it's far too much special effects, and a lot of those comic books are really well-drawn characterizations, you know. Thor, for example, you know, the Doctor, you know about the Doctor before he becomes Thor, why it happens. Daredevil is the same. But the big blockbuster movies don't give you that. They do, everything blows up, big deal. I'm not interested in that. I think some of them are good, I think some of them are not good. I think that it's the same as contemporary Lithuanian. There's contemporary, you know, good movies are good and bad movies are bad. There's no special, you know, dispensation that I'm going to give them because I'm Irish. You know, I think it's difficult to get money to make a movie, to even speak of an industry in a country that's only beginning to walk economically, really. But at the same time, exciting movies can be made in countries like that. You know, like the Lithuanian movie I spoke to you about. You see, why is that happening? There's a real fresh energy about that, because, you know, it's a bit like Orson Welles when he was 25. He made Citizen Kane because he said, oh, they give me all this stuff. It's like a train set. You know, and I'd like to see a little bit more of that, risk-taking and high-energy filmmaking, which should be very easy now with all the tools that are available to people, which weren't available when I was 15. No, I don't think that's been made yet, except maybe The Quiet Man in a funny kind of way. Although it's not real, it's hyper-real or photo-real or something. But the movie that you're speaking of, it'd be very interesting to make it, but I mean, what would that mean in the modern world anyway? You know, what is the difference between an Irish person now and someone from... I think the boundaries are blurred all the time. I'm happier for that, actually. You know, because having grown up in a country that was insisting on its difference all the time, to the point of being ingrown hysterically. And it wasn't true anyway. I don't know how healthy that is, because I really like the multicultural world, I have to say. I'm much more comfortable in it. It's full of surprises. I love the architecture. I've just been in the Philharmonic Hall there, and I think it's breathtaking. The Philharmonic Hall just here, the concert hall. I don't quite know how to describe it. It's so beautiful, really. I mean, Ireland's such an old country, you know, and you see architecture from the Norman times, but I love newness and I love vibrancy, and a country that's coming out of an old time into a new time. Everything goes around in circles anyway. So I think that at the film festival, to get such audiences, I know it's only once a year, but any movie that I've attended, the theatre has been full. And that's pretty successful for any film festival. And I love that. So people are interested in culture. Nobody's forcing anybody to go to anything. And, you know, after that, everything is a bonus. But I love the square. You see, you don't have weather like this in Ireland so much. You know, you sit and drink a pilsner and a bit of music there. You know, it's very European. Ireland's island, you know, really. So, but I'm sure if you went to Ireland, you'd find something that I don't notice. Probably fucking rain is probably what you'll notice. Is bralum ve seo is an caharáling dar vanam Zlín, tá mé ag Lauers na daoine here faoin Lauer de scríb mé dar vanam an buchel bush there, sin a butcher boy, agus brickfasta son Pluto, agus is bralum a ríis Lors Giev, agus guramíle mai agus bheith Sean Lynn. If they don't pay me $30,000 for this, I'll break up the camera. No, it's really nice to be here.